Hey, good morning and welcome back here to Just the News AM. I am Carrie Sheffield and glad you're here with us. Well, what the frack is going on? We know that Joe Biden, during the debate, he said he wanted to eventually ban fracking, and that was sent shockwaves when he said that in October 2020. There was a drop the mic moment with former President Trump saying, this is really going to hurt you in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Well, what's happened since then? Is there anything in the executive orders that Biden has been signing? Joining me to discuss this is Steve Milloy. He's the founder of Junk Science, and he was part of former President Trump's transition team for the EPA. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So tell us, what do we know about what Biden has done so far on fracking? Has he signed dozens of executive orders at this point. They has them lined up. Has he done anything specifically on fracking yet?
Well, yeah, on day two, he signed an executive order on federal lands.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat that? You cut out for a second.
On day two, he signed an executive order stopping the approval permit for drilling on federal lands. So there's about 400 permits that have been hung up now, or basically stopped.
And that's about 8%, is that right?
Yeah, it's about, fracking on federal lands is about 10%. These are new permits. He hasn't done anything with the existing permits. Companies have property rights in those. So he hasn't stopped those yet, but they'll get around to it. Don't worry. And so, now between day one and Keystone XL and day two, these permits, he's probably killed 80,000 jobs so far. This is a blue collar guy who calls himself Blue Collar Joe. He's killed 80,000 blue collar jobs, high paying jobs.
And where is that land right now in the federal, when we're talking about already what he's done with banning the drilling in federal lands? Is this mainly in Pennsylvania or Ohio? Where is that affected land?
The federal government owns most of the West, and these lands are basically in the West. So it's Western states, Republican states, he's hurt. He doesn't, which they don't really care about.
So like South Dakota, is it Wyoming?
Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
We're federal lands. The federal government owns most of the West.
So you think this is the first step, because you wrote an op-ed in October 2020 in the Wall Street Journal, which I would recommend all our viewers to go take a look at it. But you said basically that even if he doesn't want to outright ban fracking, he can basically kill it. Basically, you said death by 1,000 cuts, that you said he's going to end fracking without a ban. You said that he can't do that by executive order, but what he's going to do is what you said he would do it by an indirect means, by taking a regulatory nibble here and a legislative bite there. So what is the game plan? And you talked about what Obama did to the coal industry, and you said you think that this is basically the playbook. You said you think that Biden is going to follow Obama's playbook because Obama did a lot of damage to the coal industry. What's the playbook for the fracking industry?
Well, so it's important just to recall what happened in the Obama administration. Through a myriad set of rules, commonly called the War on Coal, Obama killed 50,000 coal jobs. Hundreds of thousands of other support industry jobs, put taxpayers on the hook for coal company pension plans, and it was just a disaster. And so now this is coming towards the fracking industry. Now Biden can't ban fracking. He has no legislative authority to do that, but he, like the Obamas did with coal, he can do that, the same thing to oil. So he can ban drilling on federal lands. He can roll back a lot of the various Trump rules. I mean, he can carry on a broad war against fossil fuels, which he has promised to do. In that last debate that you mentioned in the opener, Biden promised to phase out fossil fuels. He has said he would ban fracking. Well, he can't do that, but through death by 1,000 cuts, he can significantly damage the fracking industry and our economy, really.
So Ted Cruz basically said what you said. He put out a tweet and he said, day one, the Biden administration canceled the Keystone Pipeline. Day two, the Biden administration banned new fracking on federal land. The Biden administration's message to America's blue-collar workers: if you are a blue-collar worker in the energy industry, find a new job. Where are these workers going to go? What's the plan there to help these people who are going to be displaced?
Well, that's a great question. Hillary Clinton found out when she told coal miners to, we're going to retrain you, that they didn't accept that because, we're killing high-paying jobs in the coal industry and in the oil and gas industry. These are jobs that on average pay $80,000 a year. Uh, there's no substitute job, especially in these regions where there's nothing else to do. In Appalachia, for example, in the West where we do fracking, there's nothing else to do. I guess you can learn to code, but so far that's not been happening, and so these people are just either unemployed or they have to accept minimum wage or low wage work. Doing solar panels or windmills, I guess. But I mean, those jobs just don't pay anything, and there's not enough of them. And we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. We're making ourselves dependent on OPEC. We had freed ourselves from that under the Trump administration, but with Biden, we're going right back there.
You're absolutely right. And what I find ironic about all of this is Russia, for example. The more dependent we are on foreign countries because we're not producing our own energy, the more we have to go to places like Russia. Why do you think the Biden administration is taking this tack?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the America Last philosophy. Some of the more naive people in the administration believe that we can just do everything with wind and solar. Of course, we can't. We can't do anything in society without fossil fuels. You can't build a wind farm. You can't build a solar farm. You can't make the materials. You can't install them. You can't do anything without fossil fuels. This notion that we're going to get off fossil fuels anytime soon is just ridiculous. But they've already decided that that's the goal, and they are hell bent on getting there, and it's going to be scary. And we've already seen just 2 days in, 80,000 jobs gone. I mean, what does the future hold?
Steve, I love the name of your website, junkscience.com. Let our viewers know, what are some of the biggest junk science myths that you see out there when it comes to energy and fuel that people are just peddling, and some people sadly are getting deceived by it?
Well, I do a lot of work on climate. This notion that there's catastrophic global warming coming. That's just unproven speculation, hysteria. It's not about controlling the climate or improving the weather. It's about controlling us. They want these environmentalists want to tell us where to live, how many children we can have, what kind of food we can eat, what kind of cars. It's about controlling us, not about that. I have a lot of extensive work on air quality. The Obama administration was able to kill the coal industry by falsely claiming that emissions from coal stacks were killing hundreds of thousands of Americans a year. We were successful in debunking that, and the Trump administration tried to fix a lot of those rules based on that. In the past, junk science has been around since 1995. I've done every kind of public health, science, environmental issue. So we've got a lot of material, but recently, climate has become the most important issue of our time. Next to COVID, of course, COVID is immediate, but of course, the environmentalists in the Biden administration, they want to go from a COVID lockdown to a climate lockdown. So that's what we got to be careful of.
One to the next, all our liberties frittering away. Steve Milloy, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, Carrie, thank you for having me.